Okay, I'm going to start adding in all the layers now. So this is going to be dry brushing on the surface again. And I'm just going to go around and pick up and very slowly build the values. I'm going to keep going back and forth. And just picking color off of the area I think will be the best fit. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I will pull out the little lines with my flat scrubber brush. And if I need to soften any area, I'm going to use this scrubber brush, my modified Dick Blick. Okay, so back over this little area right here. And then on the other side, we've got a little bit more, kind of that orangey green. Orangey green? Is that? Well, it's green. Okay, and then I'm just going to keep adding. Adding color. Now, if you look at these, you're going to notice that it goes in kind of like an up and down triangle pattern. And then I'm just adding water and then softening the edges. This is the only way to me that you can get these areas without having to go into all the minute detail. Okay, I'm going to come over here and add a little bit of blue. And then a little bit of the red. And let's pull some of that red out. Okay, so now we've got a nice purple. We've got yellow. We've got our little area of burnt sienna. Okay. What brush am I using? I'm using my 5/0. See, I'm just adding in. It's still a little damp. So I'm trying to use that to my advantage. Now I'm going to come over here and pick up some purple. It's really dark on this side, so this is where you really want to pay attention to your values. In fact, I'm going to get just a little bit more. That burnt sienna. Just trying to up that value a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to come up here. And then I'm just going to keep switching back and forth. This time a little bit of burnt sienna. And then just soften. I probably should zoom in just a little bit more. I just don't want you to lose and not be able to see the areas that I'm picking for color. Okay. And then back to some burnt sienna. And then water, and I'm just going to keep doing this. If I need a little burnt sienna to tone it down a bit, all it is just the 3 colors, so I'm just taking advantage of the fact that I have it here. I pick up some yellow. And then just softening. Once you do it enough, you kind of get the hang of it. So basically what you're trying to do is just mix all kinds of colors together while letting colors get darker. There, so I'm already building up this little purpley area. You don't have to get every little thing, but it helps if you really pay attention to where the colors are. Okay, up in this area, it's actually a little bit more of a burnt sienna color with a little bit of the purple. And let's deepen a little bit of the color. See, so every time I add color, I'm making it just a little bit stronger and then pulling it downward. Making different shapes, but the whole time I'm trying to keep in mind that there's lighter areas and there's darker areas, and then you kind of come up in here and then you get these dark patches that are a little bit above it. So then I'm going to blend those out some. They're almost kind of gray though. In fact, that didn't work very well, so I'm going to make myself a gray. Want to keep that green separated. Okay, so blue, yellow, and some of the magenta. And let's see what we've got. Okay, we've got kind of a very thin brown. So let's try that again. This time let's pull in the red first before the yellow. Need a little bit more blue. I was a little bit heavy on that red. Okay, let's try it again. Pull over another paper towel, and this time just a tiny bit of yellow. It doesn't take a lot. I'm going to add in just a couple of these lines so it can give me a little starting area. Some of these may be a little bit easier just to use my my engraving pen. The thing is, to get that very light color, you have to do it slowly, little by little. It's like right here. And it's not like these are big areas either, so you can take your time. You can see that I just need to soften these colors as they're coming down. Because I think I went just a little bit too dark at first. I just need to slow down a little bit. And build them up slowly. Now it's a little bit better. Okay. Back to my number one. Okay, so what I need, actually, I also need a dark brown. Okay, so I'm going to take take my red and a little bit of my yellow and just a tiny bit of the blue. Well, maybe more than that. Okay, let's see how that does. I think it needs more yellow. Okay, let's see how that does. Maybe just a little bit more of the blue in there. A little bit more of the red, a little bit more blue. Okay. Now I feel like we're really getting a brown. It is a little close to the burnt sienna, so let's get a little bit more. Okay, now I feel like we've got a good watery brown. Okay, back to my number 5. So I'm gonna take another stab at this. Okay, and this time what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take just a tiny bit of this brown. And I'm going to make these little lines going across. And I think that's going to be a big help. Let me get some drier paper towel here. Okay, like right above this one right here. So there's like this little area that comes out. Okay, so a little bit of water and then below it. Yeah, I think that's gonna work better. So I've got to try to do both. I've got to go sideways and then straightways just to get all the textures in there. So this can be a little challenging, but I'm okay. I like to be challenged. Let's grab a little bit of the purple and darken that. Okay, a little bit more of the brown. And then some water. Soften it just a little bit. Okay, and then there's another one that's coming up. And I'm just going to soften, pull the color out. Same right there. It needs a little bit more yellow over in these areas. It's a little bit better. Okay, now let's very gently come in into these areas. Where it's kind of like they're kind of the same thing as the veins along the petals. So this may be something that you're just going to have to, oh, see, like there's no real, that's a weird little line there. So I'm going to get rid of that because that is not in the shape of the veins. So, okay, that's a little bit better. Okay, now picking up some yellow. I think now that now that I've kind of figured out what I'm doing, I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit easier on those lower ones. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the purples. And come down. And I think I want yellow in there too. Okay, and then we have kind of a brownish color in the middle. So just take your time and try not to feel overwhelmed. Just do little sections at a time. And probably what I should have done is done those vertical lines first, or maybe just wait and do them afterward. And then if I need to fill in between them, then I can. Okay, see, even I gotta figure this out. I don't exactly know how I'm gonna do this. We'll see. Okay, and then we have purples. See, I almost wonder if it's not going to be, if I'm not going to be better off just pulling them out with my engraving pen. We'll try it out here in a minute. See, because then I can just worry about getting in all these little ridge-like areas. We'll see. Let's see how that turns out. I'll figure it out. Okay, now I need that dark brown. Let's get a shadow going over on this side. Okay, and then smoothing it out and blending it out. Okay, so that's those are a few good things I've done right so far. Okay, just making the shadow. That was important. Yeah, because right in here, I got to try to get rid of that little, there was that little line that was right there. Okay, I think I'm figuring this out. Okay, and then it gets colorful back down in these areas. I just have to keep in mind the direction that everything's going. Okay, like here. Okay, so there's a... Aha, okay, that's... Okay, now I'm getting that sideways motion, and it just needs to be a little bit darker. So it's going, so the colors are going across and down. Whew. It's been a while since I've done a really detailed iris. Okay, much better. I'm a little off with the direction, but that's okay. Soften that. Go over and pick up a little bit of my green. Okay, and then the brown. Let's get a little bit of that dark value. Yeah, that's what I probably should have done. I'm going to come back with my tool, my engraving pen. And then what I need to do is make the little space between it just a little less dark. I mean, it's not horrible. It's not horrible. I just feel like I could have done better. Okay, that's a bit better, because I had lost all those highlights. There's a few in there that are lost, but I think I'm going to pick those up again with my Dremel tool. I'm going to put that down, and I'm going to go to my number 2. I'm blending that color a little bit. I'm going to pick that up. I'm going to go back to my yellows and my browns. Okay, now water. My yellows. Okay, now it's vibrant, so I've got some good vibrant colors going in there. I just really dropped the ball on everything else, and that's okay. So I just have to figure it out. Okay, now let's take some of the purples. Okay, now we'll go back and we'll take care of that. Okay, so far so good. Let's get a little bit more green. Let's come over here to the burnt sienna. That will help tone it down. Okay. Okay, let's back up a little bit. All right. Now, I still need to go a little bit darker, so I'm going to put that down, and I'm going to pick up my 2-aught. I'm going to go over here to these purples. While this color is slowly sinking in. Yep, this is what I should have done in the first place. Okay. Okay, a little bit darker there. Okay, okay. I think I got a handle on this now. Okay, I'm going to grab some of that dark value and move it over here and just let some of the burnt sienna come in there. Okay. And I think a little bit of purple. All right, now let's try this again. Okay, that's still pretty wet, so I just wicked my brush a little bit. I want to keep in mind that the darkest areas are right in here, and realizing that once I get my little pen in there, I'm going to pick up all those highlights again. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that alone. Maybe I'll pick up just a little bit more green here down at the bottom and soften that, and a little bit more yellow. Okay, now I'm gonna let that dry, and we'll come back and I'm gonna get the engraving tool out. Okay, because I had to get up so close and I had to try different tips, that's what I've been playing around with. Now, it's working, but even for you, you might just have to play around with the different tips and the different speeds. Now, once I get all my highlights back that I completely lost, then I'll go back around and I'll rub it down with my spoon. So I'll rub everything down, and then I'll glaze over just some water so it just tones them down. But I'm still not done with them, so I'm gonna go at a slowest speed that I've got. See how they're just kind of like Ys? The Ys are kind of fatter at the bottom. So you have to be careful. See, and then another little one coming up and out. So I'm just going very carefully. I lost a lot of the highlights, so basically I'm just trying to get them all back in. See, everywhere those little areas where it looks like, you know, it's kind of creased. Even up in here, I've lost a lot of that. So I'm pulling it back out. And here, let me turn this off for just a sec. And I'm going to take my number 2 and I'm going to go right along the top here. Wait, that's my double odd. I want my 5-aught. See, and I'm just putting a little bit more color right in the top so it's not standing out so much. One other thing I need to do, so I'm just going to keep going back and forth, is I need to get onto underneath this front lip of the petal. I will get this. Hopefully, if you're following along, you figured it out before you messed it up too bad, like me. You know, that's okay though. That's just what happens when you're learning. You know, sometimes, you know, I think I just wanted it to just go perfectly, and it wasn't, and that's okay. Okay, see, I'm going to come in here. See, I'm just, the way you make it look ripply is, and going up and down, is by not making it perfect all the way across. Okay, now we're getting into some lighter areas. And right in here, I had this, was too flat and too straight. So I had to get up again, had to get up really close. But now it looks a little bit better. It looks a little bit rounder. Before it just looked straight. So that wasn't helping. Okay. let's I just pushed down on those colors a little bit. Now let's see what happens when I come over it with just a wet brush. Let's see how much I can tone those down. And there we go. Tone down just enough. It's not hiding them, but they're not standing straight out now. I can actually, looks like I could do more. And now I need to come in here and just add some value, a little bit at a time. So yeah, I'm not going to lie, I struggled with that a little bit, but I feel like I got it back. Okay, now let's go over it a little bit. Okay, now I'll let that dry and then we'll come back, and because I have some highlights to pick out there, but at least I know what I'm going to do is going to work. The other thing I need to do is write down in these little areas, as I just need to get it a little bit darker. Yeah, it was a little bit darker right up in there. A little bit more purple. I'm not going to say that I'm not bummed that I didn't get it exactly perfect, exactly the way I want it, but it is better. Okay, so now that I've got those edges, and let's go and put a little bit of purple right here. Okay, that toned that down a little bit. Okay, I'm going to let that dry again, and I'm going to come back in again with my little Dremel tool and make sure I've got all the highlights. Okay, just so you know that I also have problems with areas and get really frustrated. I had to walk away for a little bit. I think I was trying to put too much detail in this little tiny area. If this had been like one of my normal size iris paintings, which are very large, I could have easily added more detail in this. I guess what I'm trying to say is I had to step away and I had to think about a different way to do this. So first thing I did was I took my brush and I washed over the whole thing, got rid of any lines, let it just be soft blend, and then I dried it. Now I'm coming back and very carefully, a little bit at a time, I'm going to slow down and I'm going to pull out just a tiny, tiny bit of the highlights. Very light. Now, if you didn't have this problem, you're lucky, but I have to save this because I have a lot into it already. And yeah, there are times when I'm just a little bit, I get off track. And I got off track, and I'm keeping this part in, because I want you to see that you can fix things. So I'm using the edge of one of my my oil brush. So this is my oil brush that it's a number 2, but just a cheap oil brush, and usually they have pretty long fibers. So I wrapped it tight, and then I cut it with those type of utility scissors where it has a little bend in the scissor part so that you can hold something in that bend and it won't slide through the scissors. So that's how I made this. And what I'm doing is I'm just carefully, softly going back, and then I'm using this folded, and I'm just pulling back out some of these highlights. So there you go. To be honest, I think it's almost kind of good when you have, sometimes when you have some of these struggles. Aha, see how much better that was? So I'm just going slightly, carefully up through and making those little lines. And I think it's finally starting to work. So I'm still following the areas that I started using. Aha, see, much better, because now I've got the cross colors going on. And in fact, I'm not gonna lie, that about sent me over the deep end. Okay, I'm gonna turn it this way, because I just think this is gonna be easier. I want to get, and you know, that's a thing too. Normally, I would be spinning this thing around as I needed to. If it was my painting and nobody was watching me, I would have been spinning it around so that I could get just where I wanted. Okay, now, I'm not going to worry about every little one of these marks, just a couple of them. And I can always come back in with the engraving tool. Okay, now right in here, so I'm going to turn it this way. Because at this point, here's what I need. Can you see already what's happening? I completely lost all my midtones. Okay, now I'm going to turn it back this way. So now I just need to get these back in here. So I'm basically just kind of having to start over. You're not going to have to, if this happens to you, now you know what to do. Just relax a little bit, and I'm going to put a little bit. It's not going to be perfect. Now I'm starting to see a little bit of the ripples. Is it perfect? By no means. And then instead of making one solid line, you just make a couple here and there. This one needed a little bit more. So here you are, watching me trying to fix a problem. It helps to walk away, take a deep breath. Okay, now see right in here, this isn't as dark. It's a little bit lighter, so I'm just going to pull some of these colors out very gently. Okay, I'm much happier with that. And I still think we've got some really good shadows along the edge. So I'm going to put that down. Now this time I'm going to dry it, and then I'm going to come back. Actually, I have one more area. Okay, now I'm going to come back with my 5-aught. And I'm going to up the saturation because my colors got pretty dull. So already I can already see that that's going to be a major help. I'm just going to go slow, going right along the side of those veins. And that's all it really needed, with just a little bit brighter colors. This one needs a little bit more of a purple. Just a little bit of that dark color. But I'm just using purple because I've already got so many colors on here. I don't want it to get too dark, so that's looking better. Okay, now I want to get just a little bit more of this brown. A little bit on the top of that area, and I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it. Is it perfect? Absolutely not, but it's better, and I'm hoping, let's get a little bit more red in there. I'm really hoping that as I get the colors in other areas that I can save it. Okay, now I'm going to dry it again. Okay, now I'm going to take my little sanding tip Now, I don't like it. It's too big for this area, so I'm going to take that one out and I'm going to put this one back in. I'm going to put it down to the lowest, and I'm going to just pick out a few little highlight areas. And that's really helping. So instead of making all of them the same value, I'm just hitting little spots here and there. A couple of little spots here and there. Might be where the pollen is hit. Okay. A few little white dots of highlights. Same here. Oh, and let's go back over here. The little white edge right there. Let's go back over here and pull out some highlights. And this can actually be toned down a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna put that down and then soften them just a little bit more. Just a little bit of yellow there. A little bit of yellow there. Okay. Not perfect, but they are better. I could do a couple more things like just a little bit more red right in that area, and then let's back it out. I'm not totally happy with it, but I can live with it. One thing I am going to do is pick up a little bit of this yellow and a little bit of this brown and just a little bit more right down along that edge. And brightening it up with just a little bit more yellow. Okay, that's how that's going to be. And so now I'm going to move on to I'm going to move on to these little guys, and I'm not going to make that same mistake. It's just going to be little tiny bits of color. I'm going to pick out the darkest little lines, and I'm going to do it in just a squiggly motion. I'm going to be very light. Pinks, browns, yellows, and I'm just going to use little tiny squiggly marks. Now right here on the top, it's a little bit, so I'm just going to pay attention to colors I'm seeing, okay? So I'm seeing a little bit of peachy color. Let's move in a little bit. I'm just going to carefully, light little strokes. See, I have these nice brownish, purplish areas. And I even have purple areas still. Toning that down right along that edge just a bit. And this time I'm going to pay attention to the way the shapes are kind of in general going. And like right here is there's a little bit of green. So I'm just going to soften that in there. Just going to try not to pay too much attention to all the detail. Sometimes you can get so crazy about things, you tend to forget that it's supposed to be fun. Okay, I'm just going to smooth all this out. I'm just kind of going over it with a little bit of water. And then it's very light. It's really light right here, so I'm going to try not to go over that. And then I'm going to grab some of this purple and right along the edge. Maybe a little bit darker. We have these little lines coming in. A little bit more yellow right in here. A little bit more of that purple right along that edge right there. So this has got to stay really light. Now I can come over here now and I can get some of that darker color. We got a little bit of dark in there, see, and then I can come back very slowly and start defining little areas. It's going slow. Don't want to get it too dark. This one was dark, so I'm good with that one. This one is light. Okay. Okay, a little bit more yellow. And then right below it is some gray. Okay, now I'm getting that nice papery look. The other thing that helps too is actually look for those shapes. Just in general, don't do what I do and did. Just completely overdid it. Now, what's going to be nice, if I need to, I can just pull out a little bit of those lines if I want. Now see, I'm just kind of going over this and softening it. Soften this. I need to come in, get this just a little bit darker right there. Okay, so far it's looking pretty good. And there's some little areas I can soften and pull highlight out of. A little bit of yellow and green right in there, and back to some of the purples. And then as we come over here, we're getting darker. So a little bit of dark. Let's go back to some red. And there's a little edge. So I don't want to lose that where the paper's folded over. Okay, so I'm going to get some of this burnt sienna color. Okay, and now I'm just going to smooth it out because I don't want to go overboard. Okay, I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to get some of these purples again. Get some yellow and some green. And I'm trying to keep in mind that these are all papery. They're very light valued. I'm going to come over and get some of the blue. Kind of hard to see me get the blue, but just picking up a tiny, tiny bit. I think we need some more. Okay, I see what's going on right there. So there's a little area in here. It's kind of the yellow brown, but it's very, very light valued. Okay, now we're going to come into some yellows and purples. Let's see, let's get some yellow in there. Okay, let's get it right up against the edge. And that actually comes down. So I was a little bit off. Kind of comes across like that. I feel like I'm back on track. A little bit more color there, and a little bit more color there. Just have a nice pretty fold there. So again, I'm trying to learn my lesson. Take it easy. I don't need to go super heavy. Okay, now I can see that I have a couple of little lines right there, and those need to be more of a purple blue. Okay. And again, just trying to keep it light, keep those colors light. I can come back over here to my purples. And they're all kind of coming along the edge of a vein. And again, I'm not going to overdo that. Keep it light. Much better. Much better. And then you just soften that side, and it looks like it's the back side, just like on a vein on a leaf. A little bit of red and a little bit of yellow. And soften and smooth that out. Okay, just connecting those little areas right there. A few more little tiny dark areas. And then softening it with some color. Just letting some of that outer color. I think I need to do the same up here. Let's hide that a little bit. Doesn't need to be so bright. Okay. And again, you can't get every single little bit of detail if you're doing it very small, like I am. Okay, just a little bit. More right along there. Soften. And I'm going to pick up my modified Dick Blick scrubber because right here I lost all of those highlights. So I'm just pulling just a little tiny bit out. Oh, much better. Okay, now it looks like that's coming down. It's one piece. Okay, I got that fixed. I'm gonna get my regular number 2 scrubber, and down in this area I'm just going to soften, because it's all supposed to be very, very light. And I'm going to fix this little edge right along the background right there. And then as it comes around, it gets really light. Okay. So far so good, but I think I need some more of this burnt sienna right underneath that little lip right there. Just a few little spots. All right, I really feel like I did a much better job. Whoops, that was a little dark for that blue. That blue is just crazy. Okay, there we go. It's more purplish now. Okay. Adding a few little lines along that edge. And let's go in here with just a little bit more of that soft yellow. And let's just take a little tiny bit of that purple right up there towards the top. Soften it. Let's get some more of the red. See how much easier it goes when you just slow down and take your time. And not do what I did. A little bit more purple there and there. Much better. That doesn't look so awful now. I feel like that was a good save. I'm going to get some yellow in here because I feel like that's going to also help save that little area by having, when I've got the yellow in there, that's the complementary color. So it helps brighten everything else up. Smooth that out right there. Okay. I feel like that is pretty good. Okay, let's back out and look. All right, it's not perfect, but it was a good save. And now that I've figured out what the heck I'm doing, I think it's gonna, the rest of this is gonna go pretty good. We need to get the darks in here, and I could come up in this area, just add a little bit more color. So I'm gonna stop and dry it, and we're gonna get started on this dark one so I can make sure I've got those same values.